Hey, welcome to the screencast for Chapter 12, Motivation, which is a need or desire that energizes behavior and directs it toward a goal. Here you see a photo of Aaron Ralston, who was the guy who got caught by a rock when he was hiking, and he actually broke his own arm bones and then cut his arm off at the elbow. So motivation has four perspectives to explain it, and we're going to go over those. Here they are. First one is instinct theory, which is now called evolutionary theory. And an instinct is a complex behavior with a fixed pattern in a species that is not learned. Birds flying south for the winter, animals hibernating, salmon swimming upstream to breed. Humans have an instinct to suckle, and when you stroke their cheek, newborns will turn toward the breast. But most of human behavior is learned. Drive reduction theory is the idea that you have a need and that creates tension, and you want to satisfy that need to get rid of that tension. So hunger, thirst, you're tired, so you go to sleep. The idea is to maintain homeostasis, or a steady internal state. And you can see this is an empty stomach. Fill it with food, you reduce the drive. Your needs push and your incentives pull. It's called push-pull theory. And the push gives you a reason to reduce your drive. So a food-deprived person that smells bread feels a strong hunger drive. Optimum arousal is what we believe humans want to maintain. An animal that's safe and warm and not hungry, you would think would not come out of a cave to go exploring, and yet they do. Children who are safe still go out and explore because humans want to maintain optimum arousal. They don't want to eliminate it. Maslow suggested that there are needs that have priority over others, things like breathing and thirst, and those come before things like recognition or self-esteem. Here you see his hierarchy of needs, and it goes from levels 1 through 5, from physiological, which is hunger, thirst, sleep, sex, air, safety, then belongingness, acceptance, and love, esteem, which is recognition and respect, and last, self-actualization, which some people never meet because it's fulfilling your potential, and some people never actually do that. The physiology of hunger, Washburn wanted to explore that, and so he swallowed a balloon, and every time he felt hungry, he pressed a button, and you could see the contractions actually showed that your stomach actually does have contractions or pangs, pain that tells your brain, I'm hungry. So Sang removed rat stomachs and connected the esophagus to small intestines, and the rat still felt hungry and ate, which tells us that hunger is not simply a function of your stomach. Glucose in your blood also is a part of hunger, and when the glucose levels are too high or too low, insulin flows in there, and in this case, it decreases the glucose to make you eat. Levels of glucose in the blood are monitored by multiple organs, and they send signals to the hypothalamus. The lateral hypothalamus causes you to be hungry. If that's destroyed, animals don't eat. And the reduction of blood glucose stimulates orexin in the lateral hypothalamus, which makes you eat. Orexin causes hunger. The ventromedial hypothalamus, or the VMH, depresses hunger. If that's destroyed, an animal will eat too much. So here are your hormones, orexin, ghrelin, and insulin, which increase hunger, and leptin and PPY, or pancreatic polypeptide, which decrease hunger. And there was some research done on trying to synthesize PPY and leptin, and they haven't had a lot of success with that. Set point theory is the idea that you manipulate the lateral and ventromedial hypothalamus to alter the body's weight thermostat. The idea is if you lose weight, your body will try to get back to that previous weight level. And if you gain weight, the body will try to get back to your appropriate weight level. There are a lot of psychologists who don't really accept set point theory because if it were the case, we would never have anybody terribly overweight or underweight. But there are some who theorize that your body, after a while, if you're overweight for a while, your body will change the set point and readjust, kind of like you acclimate to hot or cold weather depending on the season. Quiz question set 2. Go ahead and do those. Psychology of hunger. Memory plays an important role in hunger. Amnesia patients, for example, will eat again if you wait 20 or 30 minutes and feed them. They will eat again and again and again, which tells us that memory plays a role and it's not simply a physical function. And this is Clive Waring from the memory unit. So taste preference, there are biological factors and there are cultural factors. Environmental factors definitely influence what you eat. Americans don't eat rat or dog or cat or horse or goat for the most part. The goat is the most popular meat worldwide. It's the meat that's eaten the most often. And we don't eat roasted ants like these Campa Indians. We don't, in mainland United States at least, typically eat whale blubber. Pork skins, though, there are probably people in the world who wouldn't want pork skins, but here in the South, we eat those. So culture plays a role in not only what we eat, but when we eat. There are places who only eat once a day, or they eat very, very late, and we're accustomed, you're shaped by your culture as far as when you expect to eat. The fact that you eat eggs for breakfast and not pizza, say, is a cultural thing. Hot climates use more bacteria-inhibiting spices because of the weather historically, and as a result, those cultures tend to eat more hot spices. So if you go to India, you're going to eat spicier foods, and that's a reflection of the culture, which actually has its roots in history. Eating disorders, anorexia nervosa, normal weight person eats less and less, loses weight, but still thinks they're overweight. Bulimia nervosa is a disorder characterized by overeating, usually fatty or high-calorie foods. And then they either vomit or use laxatives or fast or excessively exercise to keep their weight under control. Obesity is disorder characterized by being excessively overweight, which increases your risk for all sorts of health issues. Eating disorders can be caused by any number of things. Sexual abuse is a myth, however. There's no research that really supports that sexual abuse causes eating disorders. However, family is a risk factor. You're far more likely to be overweight if people in your family are overweight. And genetics shows that eating disorders are more likely to occur in identical twins. If one has a disorder, it's very likely the other one will. Research shows that their weight tends to be very similar, even if they're raised separately in different households. Western culture places more emphasis on a thin body image compared to other cultures. Women believe men want them to be thinner than they actually do, and they perceive themselves as being heavier than they actually are. For example, here's a cover of a magazine. Actually, it's an ad from a magazine. On the right is the actual model without being photoshopped, and on the left is what the fashion industry artist did to Photoshop her. And this is what young girls see and how they perceive what is attractive. While if you ask men what they think, they are horrified by the woman on the left, and they think the woman on the right looks much healthier and much more appealing. Interestingly, this website has body images, compilations of women in the West. That's the UK, Western Europe, and the United States and Canada. And you can see here what women think is the perfect female body and what men think is the perfect female body. And there's a substantial difference. The woman on the right is far curvier than the young woman on the left. Questions for you to answer. Hormones and sex behavior. Males have testes and testosterone, a little bit of estrogen. Women have ovaries and adrenals and a little bit of testosterone, but the main hormone for women is estrogen and for men it's testosterone. And these activate your sexual behavior. Hunger responds to a need. If we don't eat, we die. In that sense, sex is not a need, because if we don't have sex, we would not die. Most people would consider it a need, and it will be met one way or the other for most people. But it's a combination of biology, psychological factors, and cultural factors. When individuals reach adolescence, their behavior develops, but there are cultural differences. Western culture is far more promiscuous than, say, Asian and Arab cultures. We are social animals, and you can see these clips from Castaway. We need other people, and there are psychological consequences when people are not around other people, they suffer tremendous psychological damage most of the time. There are exceptions, however. Social bonds boosted our ancestors' survival rates, protection against predators, especially for the young, procuring food, reproduction. These are all benefits to being in groups, and it helped our ancestors survive. Belongingness includes the wanting to belong. It colors our thinking and our emotions. It increases our self-esteem. Anytime you're segregated, it decreases your self-esteem. We don't like to break social bonds, even bad ones. This explains to some degree why women won't leave an abusive relationship. The fear of being alone sometimes is worse than the fear of the person you're with. Social exclusion leads to depression, anger, aggression, demoralization. People don't want to be alone for the most part. People who have close friends are happier and healthier, including those who are married. Marriage actually decreases the likelihood that people will be depressed and die early. Your last quiz questions.